Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. Ukraine War Frontline Update for the 7th of December 2023. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about US Congress today in this video. I have talked about them a lot today, but not in this one. Okay, if you don't know what the lines on my map mean, please check out the key to the map on the screen at the moment. Pause the video for a second and read it. Okay, we're going to go to the front line. Not a lot going on along the south. In the Zaporizhia area, no changes to the mapping as far as I'm concerned, and the same can be said about Dnipro. So this might well be a quick one. Ha ha ha, I always say that. Right, we'll go to the northeast axis from Kupiansk to Svatova to Kreminna, and there are some slight improvements for the Ukrainians around the Ivanivka area. So this is near Yehedny to Ivanivka. Ukrainians taking back some land there. The Suret maps, the pro-Russian mapper says Ukrainian army launched a counterattack and recaptured again a series of positions east of Ivanivka. So that is good news for the Ukrainians in that area where there has been quite a lot of activity for some time. Both the mappers, or the mappers that I use in this particular area, Andrew Perpetuan in the light blue and the dark blue of Suret maps, show that the Ukrainians have pushed back there. As we come further to the south, there will be activity all along this front line, but no changes to the mapping. We're going to join it to the north of Bakhmut in the Seversk direction, a place called, well, actually, no, not Vasily yet, just south of Bilohorivka at Zolotarivka there. Andrew Perpetua has a small area of land that the Russians have gained. He's talking about them saying that there were no other Russians in the area for 500 meters. So it's interesting that there are some gains, much larger sort of controlled area for the Russians, as according to Suryat maps. But and that was, I think, coming from a Russian source, but I'm 100% I can't quite remember. But nonetheless, some quite significant difference between the mappers there. But Andrew Perpetua has some gains for the Russians in that area. So then we're going to come down, just checking something, we're going to come down now to Vasily, where the Russians have made some gains according to Suret maps along this railway line, really used as a road these days. And that, in that area, no, yeah, here it is, sorry. Situation on the Eastern Front, Russian army restarted advances around the Vasily area and took control of a high position and a sector of the railway northeast of the village. Indeed, let's have a look at some topography there. We haven't really done that in this particular area. So this is from the position of the Russians as they fight through Vasily. You can see they are moving up some slightly higher ground and taking control of this higher ground here. Although it doesn't then go down too far behind it, it's just higher from where it's come from. A little bit of a challenge maybe to take that ground. That's according to Suryat maps, so not confirmed anywhere else at the moment. If we look back the other way, it's quite undulating landscape around here, fairly hilly, which will provide cover for some and height advantage for others. Yeah, anyway, that's the topography in the Vasily area of the Seversk front line. We'll come out of there now, just to get me an excuse to just do a bit of 3D imagery there. We'll come down to here to Bodanivka area, where Suret maps has the Ukrainians being pushed back fairly considerably in this area. So the that's Klishivka 1. Yeah, here it is. The Russian army took control over the series of hills southwest of Dubovo-Vasilivka and cut the road between Hurivka and Bodanivka. If that has happened, there's no confirmation elsewhere, but the Russians are continually advancing in this general area, but here and the Bakivka area, although Bakivka seems a long way away now, really, it's more the Kromovit area. If we have a look at the topography here, where the Russians are advancing, you can see that they are coming from, there's a couple of hills around here, and they're now coming down that area, that land to the Ukrainians down below here. So that could create a bit of an advantage for the Russians in taking that land if they have indeed done so. And then the Ukrainians back here on that equally higher ground. So depends on which way they attack, but you can imagine they're going to attack down into this sort of valley area and then up into Hryvivka. Whilst also, I guess, trying to take the high ground here and come around and flank it as well. Go and check what that means on the map from a 2D point of view. That is Rivka here, so could be trying to get the high ground along the high ground up here, and then also come down along here on the low ground into Rivka. But anyway, that might be some days off. They are advancing around that area, but again, not confirmed. And then some further advances for the Russians in the area to the north of Klishchiivka. Now, if this is true, and this is again coming just from Surat maps, the Russians are now in the trench area of this trench network of the Ukrainians. So you can see here that they have control of quite a large area of that trench network to the west of Klishchiivka, and the northern stretches there. And this is where the Russians have been, again, advancing fairly steadily for the last week. It has been expensive for them in terms of losses, but they are making ground. And actually, this is really what they want, this whole area. So according to Surat maps, they have about half of that trench network now. That would indicate to me you could expect to see the Ukrainians leave Klishchiivka. If they lose that high ground and they lose the defensive fortifications, there's no point them hanging around in any of this area, really. And you can see them probably pulling back to here. So, yeah, that is pretty challenging for the Ukrainians there for sure. Not good news if it is true, but take it with a pinch of salt. And then as we come to Avdiivka, not too much in terms of, well, no mapping changes there. We have Warmapper talking, and this could be really a couple of days old, I don't really know, although it came from last night. Ukrainian forces repelled a large-scale assault on the direction of Stepova from the direction of Krasnohorivka. As a result, several assault groups of Russian forces were destroyed. In fact, this is what the reporting from Ukraine video talked about. Was it yesterday's one or was it this morning's one? 9 hours ago. This morning's one, but they talk a lot about that attack yesterday or maybe the day before. They had a number of mechanized units, tanks and APVs, about 10 pieces of equipment plus 100 or so troops, and they were largely repelled. Well, they were repelled as according to reporting from Ukraine. So tough fighting around there. Bit of a stalemate just north of the coke plant. So let's go and have a look at that on my map. Here we have the coke plant, and there is fighting over the walling area around the wall area around there. Bit of a heavy go at it just in this area, as according to reporting from Ukraine. And supposedly Ukrainians have pushed back the Russians to this railway line, as according to reporting from Ukraine. But I wouldn't be so sure personally. There's quite a lot of heavy fighting going on there. So Barracuda here says the 8th Regiment of the Ukrainians targeted Russian troops to the north of the coke plant in north of Avdiivka. A bit of footage there. I won't go into that because I'll get myself in trouble. But we'll go and geolocate where those Russian troops are, just to give us a sense of what's going on, exact how close they are. Yeah, again, that's right in the middle of that area to the north where there's intense fighting over this particular tree line there. On the western side of the railway as it flies to the north. So yeah, that doesn't tell us about any particular gains, I'd say. And then here we have Getty's summary of the front line, saying start with up north and come to Avdiivka. In the Kupiansk direction, the armed forces of Ukraine counterattacked the Russians northeast and east and southeast of Ivanivka, so that's what it talks about, knocking out Russian troops and occupying a number of positions along the forest belt. But this here, the map is actually Avdiivka, that he has a advancement of up to 340 meters in the north direction. Russian troops attacked along the railway in the direction of the village of Vyemka, and the situation being clarified. Not quite sure where that is. Bakhmut direction, northeast and east of Bodanivka. Russian infantry continues to attack in the direction of the settlement and the nursery area during the day. Positions change hands. North of Klishchiivka, fierce fighting continues on the near approaches to the fortified area and the dominant height. No significant changes in Avdiivka. So broadly saying, it is tough around Bakhmut, no change around Avdiivka. The Ukrainian armed forces repelled a series of attacks in the eastern part of and the east of Stepova, in the area of the industrial zone and in the direction of Novokonyovo. So a number of repelled attacks in this area, Novokonyovi up here, and repelled attacks in the industrial area down here. But no changes to the mapping. But as you can imagine, it will be tough fighting for both sides in that general area. And although there will be lots of fighting, and I'd normally go into more detail, I'm just somewhat time constrained today. But there is obviously activity going on along these front lines. No changes to the Krinky area, which is a little bit of a challenge, I think, for the Ukrainians. They need to make advances there, and they seem to have been stalled by the Russians. However, this might be an interesting bit of nugget of news, and this is just coming out this afternoon. Russian occupation authorities in Novokakhovka announced evacuation of civilians. Moscow installed illegal occupation authorities in Kherson Oblast's Novokakhovka, and they've announced that they would conduct a so-called voluntary evacuation of residents on the 13th. This could indicate that they have knowledge that the Ukrainians might push it across in a larger way, or it might not. In fact, if we go back to look at reporting from Ukraine from 2 days ago, and I meant to do this this morning in my military update segment, but I didn't get to do it. So we have the news that there are quite a number of boats coming across for the Ukrainians, coming to the Ukrainians. So this is a report from Ukraine.
Moreover, today Magyar posted a video reporting that they crowdfunded 180 new boats for the Marines. He said that the Marines had already received 56 boats and showed the arrival of the new batch of 30 new boats that were immediately transported to respective detachments. Even though Ukrainians have some specialized boats equipped with machine guns, they are less mobile and easier to spot compared to conventional small boats. And since Ukrainians have established virtually full control over the river delta, there is no one to shoot from these machine guns, as Ukrainians are on both sides of the river. Under such conditions, using smaller but more mobile boats that Ukrainian people help to purchase for the fighters is much more convenient.
So that's to say 56 boats they have at the moment, and more to come, another 130 or so, I think, crowdfunded by Ukrainians. Small boats, not patrol boats with heavy machine guns, because they didn't really need them. They're not using them to fight people. They're using to transport humans across and small amounts of equipment. So yeah, that's good news for the Ukrainians in the area.
So the new batch of boats means that Ukrainians will continue to push and expand the bridgehead, and we will receive more news from this region very soon.
I mean, that's a hope, of course, that they'll be able to capitalize on their bridgeheads at the moment, but they are being fairly well hemmed in by the Russians. And as I keep saying, that is a bit of a challenge, given that they can hammer the area with FAB and KAB 500 bombs. Now, people rightfully yesterday said that there were reports that the KAB, which is slightly different variant, I think might have a longer range, are somewhat more inaccurate. And there are claims that, yes, that although there are 100 bombs reported hitting or fired at Krinky, they are pretty inaccurate. Nonetheless, it is, 100 fairly inaccurate bombs is probably more of a problem than 5 accurate ones. Do you know what I mean? Like they are getting away with just firing a huge volume of guided glide bombs at this basically all these bridgeheads and all this area along the Dnipro River. It is just a bit of a nightmare, and they need to do something about those planes, and perhaps that's what they're doing. We don't know. We possibly think they might have a Patriot around Odessa that took out that Su-24M, and apparently as a result that Su-24M being taken out, there is less aviation active in the area. But that might well be in this northwestern area of the Black Sea rather than over Kherson. It depends what the range of these Patriots are. That's that's 190 kilometers, and where if it is a Patriot, where it is set up. I mean, if it's right back here, you're gonna have a problem. If it's somewhere between Odessa and Mykolaiv, if it's down south of Mykolaiv, you might well be able to have a go at the aircraft that are hammering the Dnipro River, but I don't know that they have got the range on them to do that. And Of course, it may not even be a Patriot. There are lots of rumors about, or not lots of theories, sorry, about what shot down that Su-24M, and it might have been an escort boat with anti-aircraft warfare systems on board rather than a Patriot. So anyway, that's enough from me today. Just a relatively quick one. Hope that was enough for you. Please like, subscribe and share. Really appreciate all your support. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.